Hi, all. Welcome. Welcome back. It is Monday, start of the week. I just had to check my computer to see what fucking day it was.
It's Monday, right?
You're pretty sure it's Monday. Feels like a Monday, doesn't it?
The start time.
Hey, guys. Feels like a Monday. Anyway, yeah, welcome. But welcome to the program. My name is Dean. That is Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton is where you can find him daily at Lachlan Cross on Twitter. My boy Ryan Lindley's back. Linz is back from a long week.
Lindley.
He's been working. Lindley's going to scare the shit out of you with some nuclear Holocaust facts today. That's why he's here.
Fantastic.
Ooh, that'll be fun. You can get him at Ryan Lindley on Twitter and the host of the Sheeple Shepherd podcast. Yeah, dude, after you posted that, we'll get to it. People freaked out. Anyway, and of course, we've got a guest today, and really excited to have him here. He's got writes for Rolling Stone. He writes for The Daily Beast, several other bylines. He's a tremendous writer. He is tuned in, and he is as righteous as they come, and he hates the same fucks I hate. So please welcome to the program, Stephen Monacelli, ladies and gentlemen, journalist from Dallas, Texas. Stephen Monacelli. How are you, brother?
Probably recognize that name if you're a reader.
Yeah, thanks for having me, y'all. I'm recovering from CPAC COVID, as I mentioned before the show started. Thanks, CPAC. They brewed up a new variant down there in Florida at an open buffet while Mike Lindell was just like speaking his good word to the crowd. I kid
Did
you
he give
not.
out pillows by any chance? Did he give out pillows to anybody that showed up? Or
I want to say yes, but I don't know, man. I was
It's a good pillow. It really is. I mean, listen.
Man,
I am not.
He's got
on
to sleep
side.
at night for as much pipe as he's smoked in the past. He's got to have it figured out.
Love the crack rock, didn't he?
Yeah, he was the crack guy. Yeah,
he
admitted
crack.
it. Really,
Yeah.
he's been clean for a while. Not
Good for him.
Not sane,
has he
but-
though? Has he?
I don't know. Steven saw him. Did he look like he was high as fuck when you was at CPAC? Did you see him down there?
He's just got I don't know, man. He's got energy that seems like he could go for days. I don't know if you saw the Cyber Symposium, right? Maybe that's
I
just
saw
how
the one
is.
where he was like, dude was like, guys, I should have brought the video today. I didn't know what we were talking about. Guys, I want you to know, this is Mike Lindell, my pillow guy. Can't bank anywhere. No one will take his money. Crazy as a fucking shithouse rat. Super QAnon weirdo. Guys, I've been working on this for 5 months. My lawyers and I are suing all machines.
Yeah, that's his latest. He's going to sue every individual machine.
Sober as a judge, definitely.
I
Sober
am-
as a judge.
I'm inspired. I'm
Yeah.
inspired, honestly. I have also announced a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against all advertisements. All advertisements. Brain poison.
Dude, it's not inanimate enough. You have to sue all somethings like all Pez dispensers, or you got to sue all tampons. You can't just sue like an idea.
All billboards.
Yeah,
all
that's
billboards. All billboards. They are poison. They kill birds. I don't like them.
Yeah,
That's the best thing about money, though. You can be fucking insane and still make lots of it. It's a great world we live in, right? Like
Yeah.
he
The
is
difference-
a billionaire.
Yeah, the difference between crazy and eccentric is money. That's all.
Yeah.
If you have money, you're eccentric. If you don't have any
Right.
money, you're considered crazy.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I also do is I publish a magazine, which I very hypocritically have an advertisement for right here.
Protein.
And protein, it's protein. And anyway, we had an article we had published where it's like, what's the difference between someone who shows up on a hoarding show and a rich person who has like a fucking personal museum that they've collected a bunch of stuff that only they think is valuable? What's the difference? It's just that one can pay for someone else to clean it.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of it.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's like I'm glad you're here because one of the things that Stephen does really well, if you've read anything
there.
he's done, woo. And if you follow him at Stephen StevanZetti, Stephen Zetti, if you follow him, he's pretty righteous. Like you follow the bad actors, but you don't just follow them to make fun of them like, say, maybe we do here. You follow them and you get to the bottom of some of the shit that they're doing, right? So one of the things that we're going to get to in just a minute is the alt-right disinformation machine and some of the superstars that are in the movement. Andy NGO would be one of those guys. We're going to get to him. I had a nice little brush with him over the past few weeks like you have. And it's hard to wade through. It's really difficult. We live in this time when information comes from everywhere. 90% of it is completely fucking manufactured, meant to scare people. They throw their hands up and say, I'm not contributing to the conversation, which is kind of why I wanted to have you on, because we need to identify who those people are. We've got to identify the movement. We also want to talk about who's doing what and why. But I want to back up a little bit because we're fresh off a trucker convoy that was a smashing success and had nothing to do with truckers or mandates. And you had yours in the United States this weekend, and I retweeted this. This is a beautiful tweet. This is from you yesterday, Extreme Trump Voice. So the so-called People's Convoy didn't even make it to Pennsylvania Avenue. Pathetic. You can't even call it a convoy. It's so anemic. I call it a non-voy. And they never tell you where the money's going, folks. Nope. If you ask about it, the money, they kick you out. So why did the convoy in the United States fizzle? Like, I heard most of these people drove across the country, got within 10 square miles, and were like, let's go home.
I extended the joke in the DMs with my friend who said he hates but respects me. I said, they can't even figure out how to tighten the beltway. It's called the Beltway. The word belt is in the name, for Pete's sake. They can't even tighten it up. They don't know what they're doing. It's so funny. They were talking about this morning. They didn't want to go to DC because they thought they knew what would happen based on the experience of January 6th, and they didn't want that to happen to them. And my response to that was, oh, you guys don't want to do a little civil disobedience? Like, have you ever read any history of anyone who's ever actually tried to do a social protest movement? If you assume that there's any legitimacy to this thing, you would understand that, like, that's kind of par for the course, right?
Right.
Par for the course. But no, they don't want to do that. It's just like this gigantic grift. It's what I call like it's a term that I apply to people like Alex Jones and others as well. They do this thing I describe as ideological edging, where they're like, yeah, we gotta take it back from these corrupt people. They're so fucked up. Oh yeah. But then they never actually want to, they're never gonna actually do the thing that they keep intimating and insinuating needs to happen, because then the grift would be over. And
I believe you call that a climax. Yeah. I believe they never bring themselves to fruition.
Well, and then there are the crazy ones, though, that actually have tried to do some of that, right? Yeah. And then now they're in jail or facing trial. Yeah. So there is a distinction that should be made, but I think, the former makes room for the latter.
Stephen, do you think the convoy let's say we had the same scale convoy in the United States, just take what happened in Canada, duplicate it exactly in the US? There's a case to be made that it might not have even gotten that far. But do you think it would have been handled differently in the US? Because I heard a lot of that. I heard a lot of that would never have happened downtown fucking Washington, right? Mm-hmm. Like, is that something that you guys have talked about with respect to these attempts at convoys in the United States?
I think it's, it's hard to say exactly. There's so much hypothetical game theory stuff we could play out. I think generally speaking, January 6th and its aftermath, some people who are probably smarter than me in terms of being legal observers, I think they might suggest like, hey, well, part of the strategy is deterrence. You don't want to give people the idea that they can just keep doing this undeterred. And by doing this, I mean going too far and taking extreme actions that aren't actually peaceful protests.
Like shutting down an entire city for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, and to be clear, like, let's also take a step back and talk about historically, do unions have a right to protest in certain ways that might shut down economic activity? Like, people debate that. And I think some people are really stretching to try to apply that logic to this, when I don't think that those are really the same thing. Because this isn't as if this is like an organized trucker industry protest.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it wasn't. The trucker union actually distanced itself immediately. Like they were out on at the front end of it, going, "This
major
is
trucking
not,
companies, truckers.
This is
Yeah.
not
It ain't us.
right?"
That's what they say up here.
Not to get like too niche, but it's like these are like usually individual owners, people who own their own truck. They're not really even a part of a company necessarily, or they might be a small business owner. And so they kind of have the ability to do
shit like that.
Yeah, there's like other terms that people might use to describe that versus someone who's actually like an employee or a worker.
Yeah.
Although the parallel is there, Stephen. Sorry, Dean.
No problem.
On with respect to shutting down the economy, with respect to the border crossing issues that we had in Canada, right? That's where I think that conversation we can interweave the, should this have happened because they shut down trade at a major, like an international border crossing?
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't even understand what the rational demands of some of these groups are, if they even have clear rational
demands. You'll have to keep digging. I'm not sure they knew.
I don't think rational is the right word.
No.
Well, I don't know if you saw the memorandum of understanding. And listen, we can kind of get into the weeds of each one of these protests, and we can kind of, try and figure out intention. But I think overall, what I'm trying to do is trying to say, hey, listen, what the fuck is happening? Because this is one part of a bigger thing, right? Like I know we're allowed to swear here, by the way, Stephen. I don't know if you know that. But what the fuck is happening? That's traditionally the question that people asked when the whole thing started, 2 weeks into it, 3 weeks into it, when it was over. They're saying the same thing when you're watching what's happening in the United States with the failed Convoy. By the way, fucking out, chef's kiss for the name. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Convoy. We called it the Flu Trucks Clan, the fake trucker convoy. I called it Al-Qaeda, Vanilla ISIS. I mean, there's a million different
Vanilla
things.
ISIS was one of my favorites. We didn't get that one trending.
No, we need to do enough. We need to do more with that one. Got to put
the
it
Flu
on a shirt or
Trucks
something.
Clan. The Flu Trucks
They
Clan
hated
or
it.
whatever that one.
They
That
hated
one
it.
went.
Clown Convoy was good too. Clown Convoy was good.
Clown
the
Convoy
Convoy
did trend.
Yeah, it did. So did
Vanilla
Clownboy. That
ISIS
came from Australia.
Did not, though.
No.
That one, yeah.
But my point is that it's part of a larger movement, right? It's part of this, what I've dubbed the Christian fascist movement. And I noticed how virulent the bots and the trolls were, how fucking aggressive they were. Because we were really one of like maybe two outlets in this entire country that was going, we'd like to ring a bell here and let everybody know that this is not real. Like what you're seeing are real people that have been legitimately co-opted by a movement, by the Christo-fascist movement that is involved and supported by 12 to 40 different hateful groups that just want to watch the fucking world burn. But when you went to CPAC this weekend, you got a real kind of cross section of it, right? I mean, these are not normal people. They'll take help from anywhere they can get it if it helps release them from any obligation of responsibility in society. But what the fuck is all of this? Like, how would you explain the movement? How do you explain this to someone that says you may be a niece or nephew? Uncle Stephen, tell me why the world's fucked and why there's seemingly so many angry people that want to watch the world burn.
Well, I think a lot of people often make a mistake when they talk about this by jumping to looking at other countries or pointing to places where bad things have happened and saying, it sure seems like we're becoming more like that country, or see that over there. We always used to think that couldn't happen here. Well, what I would say is, if you look about 100 years ago, kids, in American history, in North American history, broadly speaking, mostly the United States, though, there were these people who were called Christian fascists. And they were around even before Hitler was in power. And they were doing all sorts of hateful things and organizing all sorts of hateful groups and disseminating all sorts of hateful texts. There were overlaps between these groups, but there were also distinct groups. Some of them were, for example, one of the most well-known organizations was the KKK. And where I live now, Dallas, where I grew up in the area, back then, about 100 years ago, 1 in every 3 adults in Dallas was a member of the KKK. And meanwhile, meanwhile, there were men that were distributing a text called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which, if you're unfamiliar with that, what that basically alleged was that Jews were stealing the blood of Christian children for their secret evil rituals, in a nutshell. And that also that they somehow control the world in most things. And you can see a lot of the echoes of these things today. That stuff didn't really ever go away per se. It's just been reinvigorated in new forms. And organizations like the Birch Society have spent a lot of time, pushing theocratic ideas, basically, that mix a lot of this stuff together. It's really no good. And there's a lot of big money that for a long time has been, organizing events and think tanks and all sorts of media and, funding politicians to push these Christian fascist ideas, basically Christian nationalist ideas, if you want to give it a little bit of a euphemism, or if you want to describe perhaps the softer edge of it. And what that sounds like is things like, God gave us the Second Amendment. It also sounds like God should be taught in schools, our God, and you know what that means. It basically, enshrines a lot of these ideas of certain people are chosen to lead, and be in charge. And there's a lot of sorts of words that have been coined to describe these various sorts of ideas, whether it's dominionism, dominionist theology. There's various strands of evangelical thinking, hard right Christianity, broadly speaking. And this overlaps with this disinformation network stuff very deeply as well. What you see in the darker sides of the internet is just open Christian fascism. The Shadow Conference I mentioned that was 10 miles away from CPAC, which incidentally I took a wrong turn, got lost, had to drive through the Walt Disney properties, who once again, about 90, 80 years ago, hosted Hitler's favorite filmmaker to show one of her propaganda videos. So then I get to this little fascist conference. I don't get inside, but this is a place where they're doing open Christian fascism, right? And some of those speakers ended up going back to the other conference at CPAC and speaking there. And I know I'm like getting a little long-winded here.
Yeah. No, please.
I know.
You're
it's
educated.
Like, bouncing my nephews and nieces on my knee, and I'm saying, I'm almost there. I'll give you a piece of candy. And so it's like,
keep going. I told you, keep going. This is a learning exercise for everybody. So thank you.
So part of the way they, distribute this stuff is just like propaganda networks. And there's a long history of rich people funding various sorts of propaganda networks and gross, sick attack dog style people who will do dirty tricks. If you know anything about Nixon, enough to know what that stuff might look like. And fast forward to today, you add all of that history, those tactics up with the internet and the modern age of just disinformation and confusion. And you get these people who it's like their whole job is basically to take things out of context, recycle them into these twisted narratives that, are very deeply fascistic in their nature. And they develop these huge followings with this outrage bait, which tends to always conclude with the thought that we need like more punitive criminal justice systems, and we need like to throw more cops at people, and we need to like, really crack down, right? And how does that sound to you when you start to hear that sort of stuff? And the criminalization of everything from homelessness to public health. So
abortion.
So here we are now. We've got people who are trying to do journalism about extremism, about the current state of things in places where they live. And then when they get onto something and they put something out there, suddenly millions, someone with millions of followers, basically 6 all of their depraved fans on them. And then the harassment starts, right? Then the doxing starts. And it's become such a repeated pattern that either the people who, basically incite this stuff, they either are so deeply ignorant that it is incompetent, and frankly, it's like it's negligence is the word I'm looking for. It's either that or they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
and that's malicious.
Mm-hmm.
There's really only two forks in the road at a certain point.
That's an interesting, because we're at that fork.
That's what I would say. And there are also people who manage these platforms who have, these things have been brought to their attention multiple times. Just today, I posted something that really crossed the line for me. And I think you flashed that tweet earlier of what we're gonna, this crosses a line for me. There's this tendency in fascistic politics and propaganda to cast your enemies as deviants, as degenerates, as often sexual degenerates.
Oh, we're familiar with that around here.
Yeah.
And I've been the target of this from numerous angles, because what I would say is this is an arrow that people pull out of their quiver when they've run dry and there's really nothing else that they can do to try to harm somebody.
Yep.
Furthermore, it's also what they want to do when they actually really want to harm somebody. It's like a poison arrow, because it's just defamatory, it's libelous, it's slimy, and it's being brought up in an environment where people are openly talking about how they think the world is run by a satanic Marxist pedophile cabal that all need to be hung up in the gallows, no trial.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell, man?
Dude, it's everybody. It's everybody. Last week, I mean, and these guys. Let me just read this tweet, and I'll kind of corroborate with you. This is your tweet you put out. It's in reference to Andy NGO, who is a. Am I saying his name right, Linz? Yeah, Andy NGO. Andy NGO is a alt-right extremist and self-styled journalist that worked for Quillette, I believe, up here in Canada. And he lives in Portland, or I believe he's from Portland. Now, Andy tweeted a response to a guy named Joe Saunders. He retweeted. This is in regards to the "Don't Say Gay" bill, if I'm not mistaken. Why don't you explain this real quick? Because this is what Andy does. Andy loves to. He did this to me during the convention, the Flu Trucks Clan convention, or the hillbilly disco, as we call it up here. He did this to me several times. I don't give two fucks about the guy because I know exactly who he is and I know exactly what he's doing. And so he stopped after a period of time. But explain the tweet and explain the intention of the tweet. And you're right. This is a dude that's like, I'm out of fucking ammo, so I'm just going to call someone a pedophile.
That's right. So, background. Don't Say Gay bill. It's just a fucked up piece of homophobic legislation that really all it wants to do is make it so that you can't even acknowledge gay or sexuality or homosexuality at all in any sort of school setting. As a means, it is intended to protect children from, perverse, as I've heard some really stupid ass people put it on the internet, woke sexuality, whatever the fuck that means. So basically it's like, not only that, but that if a child confides basically to their teacher that they're gay, like they have to report it to their parents, in a deeply homophobic environment. It's just like the most messed up stuff. And so now, like a communications chief spokesperson, right, for DeSantis, the governor of Florida, made this comment where someone was saying this is ridiculous. People are doing this as a gay man. Someone was basically saying, as a gay man, this is a disgusting bill. And someone else had intimated or insinuated that, oh, this guy must be a pedophile. And then this comms director replies, a hit dog will holler, which is exactly what you think it means.
Wow.
And then so this is the response to that. Like, I can't believe that this chief spokesperson is doubling down, or it's like is riding on that narrative that any gay man who's concerned about the experience of a young adult growing up, a teenager whatever you want to call them, some student who's figuring out who they are, that any person who, is an adult once was, if they were a kid, and grew up and are alive today. So you would think it's coming from a place of empathy. No, instead they're twisting it and trying to say that it always is coming from a place of predation, which is just such a disgusting smear. It is so gross. It makes anyone who, comes out to defend it suddenly a target of the smear. By implication.
It makes it worse as they believe it too. That's the worst part about it.
Yep. Some of them really do too. And so it reveals everything about them and nothing about who they're talking about. And these are people who are pushing this narrative are also people who like literally helped counsel the Russian government on their anti-gay legislation. These are people who like would be happy to see bills in Africa passed to, criminalize homosexuality. It is just
supporters of conversion therapy and
the depths of depravity.
Christian fascists that are pushing this, right?
Truly, the depth of depravity. They want to, do Handmaid's Tale bullshit. And Andy's throwing his lot in with these people, and I'd always called him a provocateur up until now. I called him right wing. I said, this guy, he's obviously coordinating and working with some unsavory people. People should be aware of this. He's written smear articles. He's written a smear article about me that I won't even get into because he like implicated. He tried to make it as if I assaulted my own girlfriend without ever even speaking with her. It's crazy. And he publishes this stuff and gets away with it. Makes my girlfriend come out and make a public statement saying that, Andy NGO is a fucking fascist. This is just disgusting smear sewer work. And I'm just like kind of fucking tired of it, really. And so when I saw this, I just had to speak my mind because, lately I've been thinking about Umberto Eco's 14 sort of features of what he described as fascism, eternal fascism. And a lot of those boxes are just getting checked off these days at CPAC, 14 of 14 were checked off. And people...
We should explain what CPAC is, because I bet there's a lot of Canadians that might not know what that conference is.
Yeah, basically it's like this conference. It's called the Conservative Political Action Conference or Committee Conference, whatever. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Not racist.
Not racist. Not
but racist.
Not
but misogynist.
Did they say that at the front door when you're walking through?
So they had a
not racist.
Yes. So it's a gathering of like the premier conservative political activists in the United States. Donald Trump spoke there. It's like a bunch of politicians. It's a big networking event. It's like a trade show, but like the trade is fascism. And they
they must have liked you there.
Step up to the podium.
You're fucking
they gathered
awesome,
for
man.
this, and one of the headlines for these panels, they have these speakers, and some of them are panel speakers. So there's a group of people on stage. One of them was, domestic terrorists unite: the experience of parents in Virginia in school boards. I'm like not fucking kidding you. They're wearing these as badges of pride that there have been legitimate threats reported to the federal government being made during school board meetings because people don't want people to teach about racism. And then on top of that, they had another one that was basically preemptively trying to get ahead of the fact that so many people who went to this, if they're running for office, are probably going to get called racist based on shit that they say. And so one of the panels was like, are you ready to be called a racist? For people who are running for office. I kid you not. Candace Owens' speech, it was called pupil propaganda, but they misspelled propaganda on the Chiron on stage. Wow. I have a photo. It's real. I didn't edit it.
Oh God.
I have so many things. I took so many photos. I have this massive, disgustingly long tweet thread because I was there for about 10 minutes and I said to myself, no one is going to believe you, Stephen.
It is.
No one is going to
stranger
believe
than
you.
fiction.
I was like, you got to do this. It's like at risk of either like, giving up a scoop or getting kicked out for being too mean or something. I don't know. But I was like, I have to do this.
It's one of those moments where you got so much content rolling around in your brain because you're just being triggered by everything you saw. And you're like, I fucking can't write fast enough and I don't know where to start because everything here is like you're a kid in the candy store when you go to a place full of psychos like that.
I mean, I had taken like, a massive amount of CBD, and at one point I had chugged a huge beer and I was in like a flow state of just like witnessing really fucked up stuff like back to back. And then like also funny things too. Like I saw this argument between a guy who was a speaker, who he's an attorney. He got really into the, dead end goose chase election audit crap. And then this other guy who's running for office in Arizona, who apparently like 9 months prior, they had a YouTube debate that they were still sore about. So they confronted each other in the halls of CPAC. And one of them was like, bro, you don't even know the definition of common law and you're an attorney. It was just the most incredible shit. I mean, I was in like, God, like it was like a weird after school, high school special, like sitcom drama. Everything's heightened, but it's at CPAC.
It's like a giant Jerry Springer episode that just follows everybody.
Yeah.
It's like if the cameras went home with them.
But like we're getting a little far afield. Like, let's get back. I've got a perfect segue to getting back. While I'm at CPAC, guess who starts tweeting about me?
Who?
Andy NGO.
No, that little fuck.
He was trying to get me kicked out. He was trying to make it seem like I'm a violent and dangerous leftist extremist that has threatened to murder people, which I have not ever threatened to murder someone. You fucking kidding me?
With me.
It's almost like journalists that service that ideology. Have found a way to make a couple bucks that nobody else can make, B, a little bit of community or some notoriety. But dude, they're fucking in it too. Like this video, just a little Schadenfreude, just a little video. This is a video of Andy legitimately getting his ass kicked in Portland. This is one of those videos where you're like, oh, I get it. He's one of those guys. Watch it.
Yo! Fucking own, bitch!
So there you go. There's Andy getting his ass kicked. Ryan, did you want to say something?
Can I say something? Just that what happened in that video is wrong, but sometimes things that are wrong feel really good, really good.
Yeah, look, as a journalist who's been only really ever injured by the police, it's not good to do. It's not good to do violence to journalists if they're doing their job, if they're journalists.
I missed the journalist in that shot. Was there one there?
So once again, I'm going to refrain from commenting specifically on what happened in that video, because I do think violence to people who are not actively committing violence is generally uncalled for. But I think the anger towards Andy NGO, separating it from what happened in that video, is based in the fact that, for example, he was embedded reporting with like Patriot Prayer, is this right-wing street gang basically that went and assaulted some people at like a cider bar in Portland. He was there. And like that's like why he got fired from Quillette, because a video came out where he was like hanging around with them like right before the assault happened, and he claims he had no awareness what they were planning, and that he wasn't filming or recording, which doesn't seem like it was. It's kind of weird. It's like, why weren't you filming or recording? And his other people have brought up other things in terms of the harassment he has incited towards people, or the fact that several of his fans appear to, a couple of them at least, have been mass shooters. And he's never really addressed that. This guy, Jonathan Cho, who's a reporter in Seattle, has been like teaming up with Andy recently to talk about how violence against journalists is bad. And once again, I was like, hey, Jonathan, I agree with that sentiment as someone who is on Press Freedom Tracker for having been injured. Solidarity. Do you condemn the salacious, provocative work of someone who has inspired more than one mass shooter? And he said, Stephen, thank you for standing against violence against journalists.
Well, dude, like it ain't just that one. You talk about trying to incite violence against people or incite hate against people. I got a laundry list of those from a guy named Chad Loader. Andy NGO falsely accused a Portland journalist of being on Twitter who threatened him. NGO tweeted the journalist's ID card and name. Screenshot is redacted, resulting in death threats. His now deleted tweet violated private information and probably caused that poor woman all kinds of pain. May 2nd, 2019, Andy NGO. To your point, embedded with violent extremist group Patriot Prayers. They assembled for ambushed a peaceful group gathered at a nearby pub. Patriot Prayer member Ian Kramer broke a woman's neck with a metal baton.
Jesus.
Andy NGO tweeted the victim's name while she was still hospitalized. Like, he's not done though. How about Ahmaud Arbery's death? Now, Ahmaud Arbery is that black man who was hunted by 3 dumb honkies in the States and executed for being black.
Hey,
they're all in jail.
Americans.
Saltine Americans. Sorry. Saltine Americans. And Andy said in this tweet about Hardesty and his claim about black women in Texas are part of his long history of weaponizing anti-black propaganda. May 6, 2020, this is like a year ago, NGO suggested that Ahmaud Arbery deserved to be murdered because he had once been convicted of a petty crime. That's who we're dealing with here. Like that's and keep in mind, it's like him and maybe 15 other guys that have massive followings that help perpetrate the hate on behalf of the Christian fascist movement, on behalf of churches around the world to get into bed with this guy, the Russian government, troll farms, the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg, troll farms in Nigeria, Bangladesh, Romania, which has now been kicked out. It is legitimately the most fucked thing I've ever experienced in my life, to the point where I did a bunch of research on the weekend. About 90% of the hate and the fear that we see come across our timelines isn't even real.
Yeah,
it isn't even real, but they use people like Andy, and Andy's more than willing to be used. Go ahead, Stephen. I don't mean to stop you.
I have a perfect case study. One of my first sort of interactions with him in a big way on Twitter was that there's a protest in a nearby suburb of Dallas where I live. It's called Plano. And a young man had died in police custody in jail after being arrested for like literally the smallest amount of marijuana, and had a psychotic episode. He basically, not a psychotic episode. He had a mental health episode, which he had a history of mental health episodes, and they pepper sprayed him and all this awful stuff happened. And he died in the jail cell for like absolutely nothing. So it inspired a number of protests and a whole saga.
Is that the guy they took down into the basement of the jail cell?
I don't know if it was.
And they had him in a box for a bit.
Yeah, there was a video of it, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So they released the video.
That was in Dallas.
So there was are
you remembering what I'm remembering, right?
So
yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to get this right. This young man's name was Marvin Scott III.
I remember
and
this story. Yeah.
I wrote a couple articles and I spoke with the family. It's a very, very, very tragic story. And they wanted justice for their son, which I don't really think I don't think it's gonna happen. But they were protesting to try to raise awareness of this, while many in the area tried to desperately kind of just bury it. They didn't want it to cause a stir. And they would gather their supporters and march and protest. And one day they reached an intersection near a highway, near a shopping mall. And they blocked the intersection for a little bit. And a large white man got out of his truck rather, I believe, and storms over.
Dodge Ram.
Yes, slaps the phone out of a woman's hand that's recording him, and is acting very, aggressive, as if he's ready for a physical altercation. I mean, he quite literally, basically assaulted a woman. He was later charged for that. I don't know exactly if the charges ever went through. I need to follow up on that, frankly. But what ended up happening was a lot of this was filmed, and at one point, a man with a small taser pointed it at the guy. He was a part of the protest and was like, "You need to calm down, man." And then meanwhile, there were like cops in the area, like making sure that no one drove their car through this group of people. And this all unfolded. And so then Andy NGO and this other grifter, Jack Posobiec, get their hands on it and start blowing it up and alleging that a gun had been pulled on this guy who, he was the victim. How dare they block the road? And then our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, picked up on this. The Attorney General of Texas, who is under FBI investigation.
He's a fuck too. Yeah.
And he's currently indicted for other issues. And has not yet faced his day in court.
That's really hard to reconcile. Politicians are generally not criminals, right?
Definitely not.
So the they blow this up, and then I reported on this meanwhile, and I had like covered everything. I'd looked at all the videos, and I wasn't there, but I talked to everybody there. I'd reached out to the police. They push out this false narrative, like, oh, heavily armed Antifa, terrorize this sweet white town, basically. Yeah. And the police came out and were like, yeah, all these things are swirling around. That's not true. The man who committed a crime here, the person who committed a crime here was the man who assaulted that woman. The guy who pointed a taser at him was actually within his rights, and he didn't commit any crime, actually. And that's that, basically. Like, mm-hmm. And I am not a stenographer for the police, but I was like, even the police say that you guys are wrong. Even the police say that you're wrong.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you have left, but the thing that we've sort of been I'll say me, because I don't know if there's other people a lot smarter than me that even watch this, and also the guys that are on this podcast with me are quite a bit smarter than me. But one of the things that I have sort of been struggling with respect to what we've dealt with in the last 6 months to a year in Canada, and it really, you struck a chord with me when you talked about the confusion revolving around the spread of this narrative, and everybody is trying to figure out whether or not it's done on purpose, and then what is that purpose. And these players that are part of this, the pawns, if you will, what is their motivation, and do they know that they're a pawn in this sort of process? And I think it's even more interesting in Canada, because that trucker convoy, what it unearthed was there is a segment of our country that has adopted a narrative that has started in the States. And I'm not just talking about
Steve.
I'm not just talking about the mega movement or the
I'm working on it.
The fake news stuff. I'm talking about something even more sinister, like the QAnon stuff. But the interesting thing about this sort of spread of information north into Canada is that a lot of the players and a lot of the people that are these pawns are using this narrative, and I don't think they have a fucking clue where it comes from. I've had countless discussions with people about elements of all of this, and I will point out that's a QAnon narrative. You're aware of that, right? And they're like, what? They don't even know what they're adopting to present some sort of fight for their freedoms. They have no idea where it's coming from. And even I don't.
They just know they identify with it.
Yeah, we're getting normalized here.
as the young people say, Lachlan, they are down bad. The situation here is not good because what you're describing to me is like another level abstracted from the problem that is already there with QAnon, which is that stuff, they don't even know where they're getting that stuff from, which a lot of that stuff is just neo-Nazi stuff. That stuff's just neo-Nazi stuff, like 1 or 2 layers deep. You just scratch at it and you're like, oh shit, like that was originated by some actual white supremacists. So you're telling me that there's been like another layer of abstraction, which is very not good because some of these things have like cemented themselves, and then the stuff that like didn't stick or didn't work is just kind of left behind. And it doesn't really matter that some people might still be into that. Like you don't invalidate it completely ever. You just don't really put a lot of energy into it. I look at this stuff as sort of like politics by crisis. There's like a lot of far right people. There are people who are powerful in the far right all across the world who have money, who are looking to basically leverage crisis to push their agendas. And in the United States, it's like crisis after crisis after crisis. So the school board stuff, that maybe you've heard about, the critical race theory stuff, where you're trying to ban books, they're trying to get rid of teachers. That is a panic. That is a crisis that they're trying to leverage to do other things, like just basically whitewash history. And they didn't completely succeed there. Now we have like the trans sex education panic, where they're trying to once again just like shoehorn a bunch of other shit in with this crisis by tugging on these really deeply seated, emotionally charged, like nervous points, like in your system, basically. And
that could translate into a description of some of the people that are grabbing onto this shit and running with it. Like I don't think Theo Fleury, who is a hockey player in Canada, knows that he is a pawn in this whole fucking thing. Like I don't think he's aware of it.
They're like knee jerking. They've got predispositions. Some people might call it like really just base identity politics. It's like, you know, the idea of identity politics was like, no, we need to consider a couple different things, like whenever we're thinking about how people might be affected or power or whatever, and broadly speaking. But then that just kind of got abstracted into just like skin color politics again.
Yeah,
and
now we were actually lucky in Canada,
or cultural politics.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so now
identity politics.
I don't think we're avoiding it anymore.
You have some of that in Canada with like the separatist movements, and the weird stuff like that. We have that some of that stuff here. The white identity movements, white culture movements, nationalist culture movements. That stuff's coming back in a big, explicit way. And you know, there are people all across the world who can benefit from, you know, stoking this stuff and then, you know, jamrodding whatever they want into it. And so that's why you kind of see this incoherence when it comes to what are these things even really about. It's just like, well, whatever they can get. It'll be about whatever they can make.
Yeah,
you know,
it's almost
control. It's just
dude,
power.
it's like
it's a power grab.
It's white privilege ideology carpooling.
Yes.
Like, that's really what we got here. It's like, you know, one guy's behind the van, but the wheel of the van going, hey, I'm an anti-fascist. And they're like, yeah, that we don't like those words, but you don't like abortion. So here come the Christians. They get in the van. And then all of a sudden it's like, we don't believe in affirmative action, and we like our Second Amendment rights. So it's like, come on in. And then you got the other guys who are like, oh, by the way, we fucking hate vaccines, and we don't want to get the mark of the beast in our arms, and fucking fuck the masks. It's like, welcome to the fucking loser
Did you
carpool.
say mark of the beast? That sounds like Bible. Get in.
Did you guys know that we're facing a Marxist invasion? It's called immigration. Like that's where we're at here. And
the scary part, like you said, like it's getting more mainstream now, and it's scary to see the normalization of the Nazi apologists. Like when Elon Musk put that tweet out about Justin Trudeau, it was the same thing. Like it was like and now it's becoming socially acceptable to apologize for oh well, maybe they weren't that bad. They had some good point. Like we've never done that up until
that's what's amazed me is that this whole movement has co-opted evil as an alternative perspective.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it-
like
it's
Putin.
totally
like,
fucking
you get these assholes defending Putin. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Look, the emerald doesn't fall far from the apartheid emerald mine. Like, it just, what do we expect, y'all? Come on.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like be, I'm not a tinfoil hat guy, but like, you know, after World War II, the United States did some Nazi hunting, but it was called Project Paperclip, and we were looking to hire. We weren't necessarily like exterminating them all.
It's called
And,
NASA.
you know, we've got a long history of like basically, you know, being like that stuff was evil, but we want to learn what they learned through evil. So instead of, you know, doing justice, we rehabilitate some Nazis. And you know, our country in the United States, it's like, yeah, we have been so brainwashed for so many decades with just this like knee-jerk red scare stuff, that somehow Nazism and fascism is like an appealing alternative to the idea that like universal healthcare is socialism. You know, that's so scary to people that they would literally just do a fascist revival, basically,
Yeah,
instead
you're one
of
step away from the
that.
credit check if you get fucking free healthcare.
Oh, the social credit score? That's the one I love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, get ready. You're just trying to boost up your social credit score for when we go full Nazi/communist. I got that yesterday. Nazi/communist. And I'm like, holy fuck, those are two competing ideologies, and you're still an idiot.
I mean, like, let me be clear. Like,
you won.
I am a writer, so words mean things. And when I use the F word, I mean to use the F word for reasons. Like, there are conservatives and Republicans in the world who are not fascists, and more power to them, at least relatively speaking to their fascist cousins. But like, that's not what we're dealing with. We're not just dealing with some overzealous conservatives. We're dealing with fascists. We're dealing with like people who are really, they're dealing in some dark stuff. And I would really encourage you to go if you've never heard of Umberto Eco and his concept, like go read the condensed version of the 14 points and then go read like the longer version. And then also like, you know, have some, you know, have a laugh about the fact that Umberto Eco's 14 points coincides with that Nazi slogan, the 14 words, if you've ever heard of that. There's just some poetry there, in my mind, that those two things happen to overlap, and that these days that's something that, you know, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, the really fascistic politician in the United States who spoke at the fucking fascist conference, she put out a 14 tweet thread, and a historian was like, why would you do 14 tweets when you could have just posted the 14 words in one tweet?
Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's great.
Oh, dude, the other chick who just makes me laugh is Lauren Boebert. This
Boebert.
is her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I listen. America is one of those countries that just like, I thought what was going on in America was like an isolation. Like, I thought it was just an aberration of time. Never thought it would come here. We're seeing it here. I mean, Candace Bergen, she's like,
fucking
I love
kidding,
truckers. Dude, I had
culture
no idea.
is our main export at this point.
I know.
Yep,
You've
it really is.
exported one of the fucking dumbest cultures I've ever seen in my life. So thank you. But Lauren Boebert, this is her
little bit of chicken fried in your blue jeans on a Friday night while Ukraine's getting invaded by Russia. If you haven't seen that whole like CNN clip where they're like doing really sober Ukrainian.
We tweeted.
Oh, the Applebee's.
The Applebe's, like it's the most American fucked up. It is the most fucked up American thing.
This war crime brought to you by Applebee's.
The music transition was phenomenal. Like it's almost it was like they were almost in the same key.
I mean, that's gonna happen like at the end of the world, because someone's gonna forget to, you know, turn off the automatic advertisement, and so someone's gonna be like, well, folks, that's it, like hug your families, kiss him goodbye because the fucking big one just dropped, and then it's a little bit of chicken fried, like right at that moment. That's gonna fucking happen because no one's gonna think to turn it off.
Have you
No one's
signed
gonna
up for
think
the
to do it.
mesothelioma lawsuit?
We'll send
we
you
know
a
the
free
world's
booklet.
over, but if you probably got mesothelioma from your old work, so call Celino and Barnes. Let me just play a little Lauren Boebert. I get star-crossed every time I see her because if she never opened up your mouth, you would, right? Like I just would. But watch this.
Hey everyone, I'm Congresswoman Lauren Boebert here in sunny Orlando, Florida at CPAC, where thousands of American patriots are gathered to say it's not big government that makes America great, it's we the people. And let me tell you, we the people have had enough. To be with so many people who love America.
So I can't watch any more of that because she makes me sick to my stomach. But what was her routine like? And then we'll let you split, because she to me is like, a microcosm of everything that's wrong with this whole movement. Like she is that movement. It's death in lipstick, high heels, and a decent push-up.
I'd love to comment, but honestly, I'm pretty sure I was taking a crap during her speech, and I didn't go back and watch it. I was there for like 3-4 days, man. You got to have a bio break at some point. So
sorry, then I'll just say sorry.
Sorry.
She's
I
gonna
think
be on Dancing with the Stars soon.
I think on that note, I'm going to get out of here so that I don't have to relive any more of that nightmare, because I am like actively trying to forget these days.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. It's like PTSD all over again.
It's okay. Thank you for having me, though. This has been
Stephen Monacelli. He's a writer for Rolling Stone, The Daily Beast, bunch of other different bylines. Protean Magazine. What's the name of the website? Tell us how we can find it if you can.
Yeah, this is the latest cover. It's a beautifully produced magazine that has lots of original art, essays,
a lot
fiction,
of words in there,
poetry.
Steven, a lot of words.
If you fucking read, you might like it.
Maybe
if you're not a reader,
there's some pictures.
You could look at it. It's got pictures. It's got pictures. And then like you could give it to a friend. And it's proteanmag.com. You should go read it. It's a nonprofit. We don't make a lot of money, but we also don't have to do advertisements because, as I said, I have a class action lawsuit against all of them. It's coming. I can't sue myself. That would be, you can't be counterparty to yourself in a lawsuit anyway. That would be fucking insane.
Yeah.
So
really,
I had to think about it. I'm playing a long game here, guys. Anyway, check out the magazine. It's good.
Will. Thanks,
follow my work and listen to these guys talk their shit. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, buddy. Stephen Monacelli, Rolling Stone, Daily Beast, at Steven Zetti, Stevan Zetti on Twitter. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Really appreciate you doing this and making time for us. Stephen Monacelli, ladies and gentlemen, he is a very bright guy, great guy. You know what? It makes me happy there are people like, it's almost like knowing that there are adults in the room in the United States. You know what I mean?
It's fascinating to me when I actually see somebody, like, especially when they're like speaking up about, like, not talking about like the talking heads on CNN or whatever, but like an actual real person just saying, you know what, this is bullshit. Why aren't we wearing masks? I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to, get the vaccine. It's like, wow, that's America. There are still regular people in America. Think God.
About this. Think about this, lads.
I miss America.
I don't.
I kind of do.
Think about, would I like to go? No. But think about this.
Vegas, In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, I won't miss the old In-N-Out Burger. That was fun.
Myrtle Beach, golf.
Yeah, that's true. Wouldn't mind golfing in a warm climate.
Yeah.
North Carolina, Chapel Hill, been there, golf, Pinehurst. Nice golf around there. Anyway, we don't talk about it. Get me upset. 50% of the people in the United States don't give two fucks about anything that guy says. Yeah, up here in Canada, it's probably more like 10, right? 10, 15, because of our sensibility. You know the fight that guy has on his hands every day? Just trying to speak the truth to people who don't give a fuck.
Just a battle, right?
Just think about us, what we go through, and just amplify it. Like, that's how bad it is for that poor guy. fucked.
Totally
Well,
fucked.
I think what ends up happening though is if you are in that position, if you're in the position that Stephen is in, what you do is you create you have a skin, right? Like you
callus.
develop a callus for it because you can't go to bed every night. And if you can't do that, then you got to take other steps, right? Like you got to block people. You got to make sure that you're not engaged.
Drink a
right?
lot.
Drink a lot. Like Dean, and again, we keep bringing this up. Like a lot of us on this podcast network are very surprised by how aggressive you are on social media, and I applaud you that you don't let it impact you. You figured out a way to go about your life without it having an impact on you. And
Can I tell you why?
You need to be applauded for that.
No, I don't think I'm special. I'll tell you why. It's because all I've done for the past 2 years is try to understand this. And this weekend, I came to a great understanding, as a matter of fact. And the understanding I came to was that none of this shit's real. Like, legitimately, almost none of it.
Yeah, that article you wrote really, really blew me away. Even though we kind of knew it, but the numbers that you had are insane.
It's bizarre. Like, something was wrong, and I knew something was wrong. Now, stay with me because I think this is really important stuff to talk about. Now, when the whole thing started and we released the link to the donor list to the Give, Go, Send thing, it was a crush. Like, I got crushed. It was thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of hate tweets, death threats that made no sense, right? And instead of turning off my Twitter, what I did is I leaned into it and I started to read these people's bios, look at where they were from, look at how long they'd been on Twitter. And then I cross-referenced that information with some people that work at a cyber place. I can't talk about it. And then I had a long conversation with them this weekend. I did a ton of research. And here's something that might be shocking to you. It's not to me. And as a matter of fact, I don't think it will be when I say it, because I think a lot of you kind of understand that this is true, is that 95% of disinformation, hate tweets, threats in this country over the past 2 years specifically happened, and it was like 95 right around the Convoy, right like in the month of February.
Yeah.
95% of the shit that flooded this country, the misinformation, the threats, the posts, the hate, the questioning, the memes, the terrible information, the lies, the fuck Trudeau's, all that, 95% of it came from Russian-run entities. Russian-run entity, 90, which means none of that shit's real. None of it. We wrote this post. You can see it at deanblundell.com. Almost every divisive, hate-filled narrative in Canada comes from Russia's GRU. And here's why. We laid it out. Troll farms with tens of thousands of people getting paid $525 a month to sit there and do that for two reasons. One, create a narrative that isn't real and to make people think it is. Two, to scare the shit out of people from saying, nah, that's not right. Here's a fact. Here's an immutable fact.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, that's not fact. Think back to how this thing has been fucking governed on social media for the past 2 years. Think back. Think about it in your head where you're like, masks work. No, they don't. 5,000 tweets, hate tweets, delete your account. You don't know what you're talking about. People throw their hands up. And there's this nihilistic purpose behind all of it. And that's to make you in Canada afraid to fight back, afraid to post the truth, afraid to actually put stuff up, because we go, you know what? I'm not dealing with it. Because you get scared. You're like, some guy threatened me. Well, the guy that threatened you, his name's Sergey, and he's beating off in his mother's basement right now, and he's not coming to Canada because he can't, because he only makes $524 a month courtesy of the Russian government. Why is Russia in Africa? Great question. The second biggest troll farm in Africa. Why is Russia going into different countries? Why are they doing business in India and Pakistan? Great question. The new farms, the new troll farms that they all come from India and Pakistan through an agreement, and it is all Russian paid. 95% of the hate that you see is a mirage created by some fucking douchebags overseas. And how that works, it's very fucking interesting. How it works is they pay different organizations. Russia, the GRU, pays different organizations to put out news. Now, how I know this is we've been approached several times by different companies to do the same thing here, right? We've said no. To the point where different law enforcement officials have said to us, you guys are abnormal because
tens of thousands of dollars.
80 more than that, 80% of information that comes from Canada by legitimate outlets that is favorable to certain governments that we're talking about is paid for by Russian lobbyist firms that legitimately. China has PR guys here. Russia has PR. They all do. And it is fucking fascinating to me because when you lean into it, instead of going, I'm not tweeting, I'm afraid, and you actually read about who's involved and what this is, it is legitimately war online meant to touch us here. And it did. It was fucking brilliant. And and this has been going on since 2007. This was a concept that psychologically, the Russian government says, we know how to create fear in countries. We know how to prevent people from telling the truth. And it's fucking enormous. Like, I don't think people understand how big it is. To that point, Steve Monacelli is going to come back on in the next couple of weeks because he's doing some digging. And he's going to share with us where some of that money came from here in the country. Like Tamara Lish, she got let go today. Her bail hearing was today. They let her go. She's been released. Long story short.
Though, what makes it difficult for me is that there is an element of buy-in. Right. I realize what you're saying. Yes, we may be seeing misinformation. There may be an attempt to try to rile everybody up. But the issue is I have had conversations with people. Real people who are adopting this narrative that are trying to convince me that Putin really is in the Ukraine fighting Nazism. So that's the thing that's bothering me. Like, I understand what you're saying, and I get that.
Dean's analogy is succinct. Like, that's perfect. The carpool analogy.
Then when you carpool, you sit around in the car, right? And you're driving somewhere, and you start sharing views, and you're like, yeah, I fucking dig that too, because I'm a Christian fascist. So yeah, fuck the world. Putin's
hey, that fucking Nazi likes Putin. Like me. Dude. We're buds.
Yeah. Like, Locke, to your point, if there are 10 people that tweet about how much they love Putin and what he's doing in Russia, 10, one is Canadian, one person is real. Okay. One person is real.
I'm
so
just
when you get
that article that you were just talking about,
it's really good.
I made sure
Ryan haven't read it yet.
So it was
well, that's why it was really good. Just
because you finished it up for me. I'm like, Ryan, read this. I think I fucked it up. I wrote it at like 5 in the morning.
It was perfect. I didn't even have to change like any spelling mistakes. It was awesome.
When you read that though, like when we sit around and we talk about it, aren't you like relieved a little bit? Like, oh fuck,
you know what you are, but it scares the shit out of you, but it relieves you as when you're an actual I don't want to suck my own dick, but like when you're actually like smart and you actually like you're a little bit more your eyes are open to what's going on. Yes, it's a relief, but it also is it causes angst. Like Ashley was there when I was doing that on Sunday morning for you, and I'm looking at it and I read it 3 times and we just kept talking about it. I'm like, this is fucked. Like this is fucking crazy. But you can and this is what scares me is you can show this to everybody. You can put it on Front Street. You can blast it on a fucking mural beside the Parliament building in Ottawa. They are so deep into this. It's not.
That's the other thing. It's not the fact that I'm having a conversation with somebody about a point, whatever it is. And for me, I've gotten to this point of curiosity. It's like, so you believe that the Clintons are drinking blood? I'm using an extreme example. Right? They're drinking infants' blood. Why? And they're dead set. And not only that, they're pedophiles. They have no idea what QAnon is.
Well, here's the thing.
They have no idea where that narrative came from. They have no idea that they have been co-opted by this
fascist movement.
This movement, call it whatever you want, and they're pawns in it.
And they may even call QAnon ridiculous when they're oh, I'm not QAnon. Those guys are fucked.
Yeah.
But
yes,
that pizza
I've had them
really
say that, and I'm like, but then why are you so adamant about one of the narratives of the cause or whatever you want to call what QAnon?
Two reasons. One, they're not smart enough to comprehend it. That's a fact. Dunning-Kruger. It's a fact. They're not smart enough to comprehend it, which is why they're in this position in the first place. And the other reason is because they don't want to. Like, it's cognitive dissonance at its fucking finest. Is if I back out now, I'm fucked. Because all my friends are in the fucking cult. If I back out now, I've got no friends. Because everybody's disowned me. If I back out now, I can't go to heaven. Right? So
it's like cult members. When cults leave, people leave cults, the same thing, and they speak out against it.
Works the other way around, though. I mean, we all have. I mean, I just recently had this thing happen in my life, where there is an individual I will never, for the rest of my life, be seen in the same room with this individual, and I know that. I know that to be true. And I am actually relieved that it's got to that point. And this, I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that will never, ever associate with this person. Mm-hmm. And they're on their own now. They might find their own community, but the community that they were in, a lot of them, it's like, so it's not just they're scared of the new community. They have completely isolated themselves from a group of people that they may have associated with previously.
Disconnected.
Yeah. And that's
okay. They don't care, though.
No, and they do. This is the thing, is they tell you they don't. Oh, 100%. It defies the laws of human nature and evolutionary psychology to say that not having friends doesn't bother anybody, or not being liked by anybody, or alienating everybody around you made you a happier person. They're not. It's a fact. You can't get away from it. No. This person that you're talking about is every single person out there that's legitimately traded in their priorities to be part of this thing because it's the good news of Jesus Christ that needs to run the world, not human beings with a fucking heart. So that's the problem that we're facing. The problem that we're facing is that we're fighting an ideology that is legitimately supported by Vladimir Putin, to the point where this guy named Kirill, have you guys seen him? He's the Orthodox Christian, head of the Orthodox Christian Church in Russia. He's like best friends with Vladimir Putin. Kirill is his name. Look him up. He's got a big beard, looks like a fucking lunatic. He wears a funny little like motorcycle hat.
Seen pictures of this guy.
Yeah. He told Vladimir Putin he's a god, like he's an angel, and he has to save Christians around the world. And so he cooked up this lie that leans heavily into fascism. He has told all the army guys that are getting their fucking asses kicked in Ukraine, by the way, which we'll get to in a second because they got some new gear. But he literally told Putin, and every Christian, evangelical Christian thing around the world feels the same way. Like, dude, they would not believe this is right for them, that right for everybody else. They wouldn't believe that this is super important and human rights don't matter. Only thing that matters is Jesus Christ in the lives of people. They would not believe it is right for them if they didn't believe this was right for everybody else, because it's fucking craziness, legitimate craziness. So that's what's going on. Speaking of the Ukraine, by the way, did you see the new gear these guys got sent to them today?
It's like Christmas over there for these boys.
You guys have to follow this Twitter account. It's called Ukraine Weapons Tracker.
Yeah, they're amazing.
It's one of the fucking best Twitter accounts you will ever see. And all it does is literally show all the shit that the Ukrainian army is stealing from Russians as they blow up their convoy. And now they're saying, oh, guess what just arrived in the mail? Guess what just arrived in the mail? The Danish delivered M72 EC launchers. These are things that can absolutely penetrate 450 millimeter armored tanks, along with a whole bunch of different rocket-propelled grenades. Not only did they get that, but they also grabbed themselves a T-64 B7 tank near Mariupol. They
got this bad boy at a discount.
They took it from some Russians who thought that they could whoop that ass, and they're like, nah, now this is ours. This is the Ukrainian army hitting a Russian supply convoy in Kyiv, damaging and destroying a number of supply trucks. Look at that. This is fucking unbelievable.
I
They
needed
weren't
to
done
see
there,
this
though.
today.
This is the Spanish C-930CR disposable rocket-propelled grenade launcher. About 8,000 of these babies just landed in the Ukraine as well. This is my favorite picture, though. These guys have just finished whooping that ass, these Ukrainian guys, and look at them with the fucking devil's horns in their new rifles. The first Belgian FNC assault rifles delivered to Ukraine, weapons being operated by a volunteer of the International Legion. As reported previously, Belgium donated at least 3,000 of these bad boys, and they did. On top of it, all the American aid has just landed. On top of it, all the Canadian aid has just landed. They are getting their asses kicked.
Good.
12 to 15,000 Russian troops dead. That's 10% of the fucking workforce that they sent there to go and take that country over. 10%. Yeah. There's another 5 to 10,000 that just fucking walked away from their convoy. And here's the most amazing part is that the Ukrainian army isn't legitimately going after like heavy artillery and tanks and machine guns and howitzers and stuff. They're like, no, forget it. You know what they've been doing? Blowing up the fuel trucks and the supply trucks.
Yep.
So
like almost, I think it was over 100 fuel trucks are gone. And think
1,000.
about that.
1,000.
I missed a zero then because that's fucking nuts.
I've had a really hard time watching this whole thing. It's just the escape conversation to let the refugees out, and then Russia bombing that escape path. Just I'm not wired to process that shit. I'm not. I'm getting angrier and angrier that we're not more involved. So I really did. I appreciate this today. Because this has really been getting to me, this war. And I'm so glad these fucking Ukrainians are just badass motherfuckers. The
videos are great.
How can you not be inspired by these people? Like, it's unbelievable what they're going through and how they're fighting back. And that Zelensky, fuck me. I can't even, I don't understand a word he's saying, but I just want to reach through the TV and fucking hug the guy every time I see him. Yeah. Just amazing. Yeah. So I'm glad there's some positive stories here, because that the shit that's going on, and it's just like, someone's got to shoot that dick. That Putin. Yeah. They got to fucking just shoot him. Like,
well, that's the thing is, like, knowing that all the information that comes into this country is a lie, right? And 95% of it comes into this country is a lie. Then I can safely assume that everything Vladimir Putin says has been a lie. His army's the biggest and the best. They're getting their fucking legs chopped off at will by the Ukrainian army. It's like, we got lots of tanks. No, you don't. Wild. They just fucking pick them off. Got lots of fuel. No, you don't. They're packed. They're charged. They're done. They're finished. They're fucked. To the point where one of his FSB guys, and I forget his name, wrote an article. Not an article. He wrote a memo to his boss. And he's like, hey, by the way, just so you know, I quit and we're fucked. Like, he just said it today. He put out this note to the Russian command unit. And he's like, I quit. No one here wants to fight. Everybody here is on the side of the Ukrainian people. We had no idea we were here to commit genocide. And by the way, we're getting killed out here, and our entire detachment is gone. I'm the only guy left. I'm fucking done.
Did you see the mothers?
Oh yeah,
the mothers that showed up at that. Yeah, that showed up at that press conference and spoke and said, you put our kids were cannon fodder. You sent our kids as cannon fodder.
That today.
That was heartbreaking. Yeah. Because these people, some of them literally do not, because they've just fed that bullshit that you talked about in your article. They're just fed that constantly. It's a constant fucking stream of ingesting misinformation from whatever Putin wants to tell you. And now he's going to shut the fucking internet off. So now
March
it's going to be Yeah, it's gonna start like it's gonna be like a total dome. Like remember Stephen King did the dome? It's gonna be the dome, and that's it. You're only getting what we give you.
Ukraine weapons tracker, right? That was what you were just showing.
Yeah,
they just posted a new video, by the way.
Did they?
Yeah, I just had someone's watching and they sent it to me, and it's Ukraine forces blowing up something Russian.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. It's fantastic follow. Like, I'm glad you pointed them out this morning, Dean, because I spent a good portion of my morning this morning just scrolling their videos.
Dude, it's one of the fucking best sites in the world.
It's two dudes. It's two dudes that have like normal day jobs, but they're doing this on the side, and they're doing a really good fucking job too.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah.
I got that video now. I want to put it up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We just blew up a fucking Russian position on top of a building. They're like,
I needed this.
Yeah.
I fucking needed this.
Oh, dude, these guys are fucking weapons. I swear to God. One of the things about these guys is that they don't give two shits. Like it's courage. This is like you're watching real courage.
Yeah,
which is like not something that you see all the time. Like real courage, where guys are like, I'm going to put myself at risk. I'm going to take my privilege and put it on the line, and I'm going to fight for other people. This is so foreign to us, isn't it? Like as a group. Anyway, this is the video. I'll play it for you right now. This is the Ukrainian army blowing up a Russian position. Let me just find out where it is before I play it. It's fucking incredible. Hang on one second. It's
probably
coming.
Kharkiv. Imagine a lot of their stuff has been coming out of there today.
Oh, is it Kharkiv?
Kharkiv. Well, I don't know. I didn't see it, but I'm guessing most of their stuff today.
Kharkiv's more in the south, right?
Yeah.
Here's the video. This is the one you were talking about. Yeah, feel good about it, man. I mean,
I do.
Ukrainian
I'm glad.
people.
Thank you. I just followed that Ukrainian weapons.
Oh, dude, you'll love it. It'll be one of those things where you're scrolling through it and you'll be buoyed by the death of Russians. It's awesome. Look at this.
Oh.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
There's another video where these two Ukrainian soldiers, they're coming out from behind like a shed, and the guy's like, "Go do it."
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Okay," and he's like, "Phew," and they run back and they go like this. They hear a, and the guy's like, "Hey."
And then they're posing for pictures for each other's phones.
You know what? Great. It's interesting. just to put this in perspective, right? Like we keep speaking about privilege, and I don't know if any of us have wrapped our heads around that. I was watching a coverage of the evacuation. They're talking about 1.7 million people have fled as refugees from the Ukraine, and they're saying it's mostly the elderly, women and children, and not a lot of men between the ages of 18 and 60. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm 52. If this is my country, I'd be running around right now with a bazooka, right? Like, has anybody actually really thought about that in Canada? Because it really hit me today. I'd be like, I'm still in pretty decent shape. My knees are a little fucked, but I can get around, right? Like I would be fighting to save my country right now. Right?
Yeah, I talked to my kids about that the other day. I said, if this happened here, because they were asking questions. They're older dudes, right? Like you, I've got older kids, adults, basically. And I said to my youngest, I'm like, would you sign up to fight? He's like, totally. And I'm like, well, would you sign up to fight if it was here? He's like, yeah, I would. And my middle guy's like, not really. And my older guy's like, yeah, totally. Right. And we had a little round table discussion at dinner over some chicken. We had some chicken, rotisserie chicken, and a Caesar salad.
We made last night.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. You put it on a nice little poster, your rotisserie chicken. It looked like you shoved a whole bunch of stuff up its ass, too. It looked delicious.
Lemons,
beer can,
onions.
No, like fruit, veggies.
No,
anyway,
yeah.
But what was my point? Where was I?
You guys were having a chat.
Round table.
Chat.
Would you fight?
Round table chat. And I'm like, dude, if it came here, you'd have to my 18-year-old. Like that's what's going on in Ukraine. It's 18 to 60. You stay, you fight, to the point where I saw a bunch of like 18-year-old kids in like bike helmets and knee pads from like, roller skating or rollerblading or whatever, go out with guns the other day. And I'm like, fuck, good luck, fella. But like, you would be probably major first class, Locke. I would be a privateer. They would give us guns, and we would have to legitimately go and put our life in the way of other people. And it's so foreign to us because we've never had to do that. The Ukrainian
Never.
people have done it for decades, decades and generations, and so this is not new to them.
Never
They
have we
protected that
ever
land
had
for
to
years.
worry about even
never,
the
never.
idea. It doesn't even cross our minds, right?
That's why these
But if
cunts
you-
make me so
Privilege.
sick.
If you start walking north, you're going to get to Russia.
Yeah.
We
That-
border
yeah.
Russia here in Canada. Listen, I realize that we're still pretty safe here, but I mean, I could have been born in Ukraine.
This
Yeah.
old democracy privilege is what we
I
have
fucking
here.
love pierogies.
Because we don't know it. We've never experienced oppression. We've never and we brought this up prior to Ukraine, Russia. The fact that we've never experienced real tyranny, real oppression, which they all cried about in Ottawa. We've never experienced any of that. And now
I'm
we're
wearing
getting to see
slippers
it.
right now.
Yeah,
I have
I'm sitting here.
slippers
I'm
on.
getting drunk on the internet with my friends, and people are watching me. Like,
And here's the thing: you're talking about anything you want today, too. Right?
That's what I mean. Yeah, you imagine if we were saying, if you said what you said today, Locke, about Putin, 15 years you're going to jail. 15 years minimum if you fucking survive. But you're going for 15 minimum for desecrating his name, and
I still
and
think that needs to be
speaking
a
out
thing.
against it.
I think once we get through this, if we ever get to a more evolved state as human beings, I think we legitimately need to have somebody like a panel of people that are not tied to any one religion, any one country, and they promise that they are going to make the best decision they possibly can for the survival of mankind and the world as we know it.
You'll never find it.
The world gets smaller and smaller, and we need to have those people check to make sure that the penis size of men that take over countries is of a certain size.
It's a very good point.
I bet you Putin's got just a tiny cock.
Oh, he's
Just the
got
smallest
just
dick.
a peen.
Maybe he had COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe it shrunken COVID or something.
No, that guy, look at him. Look at him. He has got, look at pictures of when he was young. That's got no dick written all over it. And that's all this is. That's
Little
what
dick
this
energy.
is.
Yeah.
That's
You know what?
this is.
And you know what that's telling you? We need to see more. We need to see more Angela Merkels in these chairs. We need to see more women in power, because it's. I think it's a big thing when it comes to war. It's not a dick wagging contest with women, and the empathy is a little higher when it comes to that. When it comes to caring for a. We've seen it with every female leader. Look at what happened in New Zealand during COVID. They fucking kicked its ass.
Look what's happening in Canada right now. We've got Anita Anand, the defense minister. We've got Melanie Jolie, Chrystia Freeland, who is literally setting the pace for the world when it comes to sanctions.
I don't disagree, but I will say, for the sake of balance on the panel, I'll jump out here. I know a couple of women I wouldn't want to have control of a button.
A couple.
Yeah.
I know a handful. I know a handful that would terrify me with power.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
Is one of them named Deb?
No, my wife should be running the fucking world.
Probably.
I got stories about her. My fucking wife is OG. I'm telling you. She's yeah.
I want to play you something.
Okay.
For all the people that and we'll go out on this, and tomorrow we're going to get to the nuclear disaster which could come, because Ryan wrote a piece about it. I just don't want to end on like, hey kids,
that's dark.
Get ready for Satan 2.
Literally the name that NATO has given one of Russia's largest nukes, the largest nuke that we have, Satan 2. They've already had a Satan 1.
Yeah, they have, and they're like, Satan 1's too bad. Go with Satan 2. It's like fucking crazy. But we'll get to it tomorrow. But I want to end on this. If you think this is tyrannical, if you think this beautiful country of ours is full of tyranny, if you think this place that we live in is a police state that requires the ultimate sacrifice for your freedom, I want you to take a picture. I want you to a mental picture of this next video I'm going to play. This is on the streets of Moscow. Okay, these are kids that are being stopped by Putin's police force, which are generally just thugs they pulled out of jail and made cops. That's why they have allegiance to him, by the way.
The clown convoy peace officers?
Yeah. Exactly.
Putin's a gangster. He's legitimate, hands down a gangster.
Oh, totally. He needs to be taken out. And I think he will. Read a couple things today, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, long story short, police are legitimately stopping people on the street so they can check their fucking cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they checking for? Absolutely anything to do with the war, Putin, the war, or Putin. That's it. If you say anything negative, they can legitimately throw you in jail for 15 years. That's what this is. Watch this. Watch. Look at these cops checking guys' phones. Meanwhile, we've got fucking idiot Canadians, rednecks, and hillbillies in a hot tub in Ottawa going, "We want our freedom back, bro. I don't want to wear a mask." Look at them
just scrolling,
just scrolling through a phone, just having a look. Wow. Like, look at that. Awesome gloves because you can still scroll. I want to know where you got those gloves for sure. But
fucking body armor's fucking massive too. Like seriously, what are they? Nobody fights them, like they're all submissive because they're scared to fucking death to live there.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that intimidation factor is just
fucked.
I feel bad for I do feel bad for the Russian people.
I feel really bad.
They know nothing else. They know no better.
Dude, they're turning off the internet. They're turning off access to the global internet on March 11th. Netflix just pulled out yesterday.
It's North Korea.
Yeah, they won't get anything. I feel
there's a lot of pressure on McDonald's right now to pull out of Russia. Pepsi apparently hasn't stopped doing business with Russia.
Visa, MasterCard stopped processing payment.
I think Coke still does business there, though.
Is it Coke? I know Pepsi hasn't stopped yet, but there's pressure on Pepsi right now to pull. I think a lot of it also has to do with the manufacturing side of things too. Mm-hmm. But I know it is unfortunate. Like one of the collateral damage of these sanctions and what's happening around the world is that the Russians are going to get poor. They actually, I read something this morning that said that there's a case to be made that that Russians as a whole are poorer than India. Like that's
makes sense.
I always thought India was one of the poorest countries in the world. They're saying no, actually it's Russia now. And that 35% of the wealth is in the hands of 110 people in Russia.
Yeah. There's
35% of the wealth.
Yeah. There's I think there's 16 billionaires in total. I think there was 16 or 116. I can't remember. I wrote something about it, but it's a very concentrated. There's no middle class in Russia.
Well, like just by landmass, right? Like we look at that country and we're like, oh, it's a huge country. It's a superpower. They have the GDP of fucking Italy. They have the economic power of Italy. Like,
but they have an underground black market that is billions of dollars.
But that's why these sanctions worked so effectively and so quickly, was because there wasn't much of a GDP to fucking affect. Speaking about the big companies that are pulling out, just quickly before we go, there was a big hubbub about the oil companies, like, because Russian oil, obviously the ruble's down, Russian oil nobody's buying it. So BP made a big statement: we're not buying, we're cutting off, we're stopping all projects. They're not doing any more development in Russia. And all the big oil companies jumped on, including Shell. But apparently, I read something today that Shell took the PR for saying that they were, we're out. But now apparently Shell's still buying discounted oil out of Russia. So I'm going to dig a little further into that.
There's a deal to be had on Russian fuel right now, man.
It's like they're dipping. They're dipping out of both wells right now. So I'm gonna confirm that though. But it was very, very new and it was like
you're going to see a little bit of that, because unfortunately there's nothing we can do about it. There's horrible human beings walking the planet.
Well, China's waiting. China's their mouth is watering, waiting to buy that oil, because they're going to buy it for pennies on the dollar now. And you know what? Yeah. Putin's going to get bent over, and it's going to be that way for decades now. And the only people that are going to suffer are the actual Russian people that live there.
That's true.
And it's all in the hands of one piece of shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's good people in Russia.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
It makes me sad that I cheer these like eradication of certain columns full of like Russian soldiers, right? Because you're like, fuck, I watched a video this morning, 9 minutes of this Russian commander go, we shouldn't be here. I'm sorry. Like, we didn't get
the guy with the tooth.
The guy with the tooth missing and the beard. He's all grizzled. He's like a special ops guy. He's like, we're the aggressors. We deserve to go to jail. This is fucked. Yeah. So there's lots of good stories that are coming out of it too, and seeing the way that Canada's responding. I know Justin Trudeau was in England today, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, we're going to ding the rest of the oligarchs today based on Alexei Navalny's list." Like they asked the number one enemy of Vladimir Putin to put together a list saying, "Who should we ding next?" And he's like, "Here you go." And so Canada just went and dinged all of those guys. So
Good.
like Canada's also on a hit list. I don't know if you know that. Russia released this like list of combatants and people that they hate, and we're on it. And no big deal though, because like I said earlier, it's all a joke. These guys got nothing, zero. Every time that you see some hate come your way from that country, just know it's a fucking fantasy.
Yeah,
and you should be good.
Quote, tweet it and make a joke. It's pretty fun. I've been doing it all weekend.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments said Russians need to rise up, and the problem is they have been, and there's literally over 5,000 of them that are incarcerated now for doing so.
14,300.
Sorry,
that's the other thing that happens is that you eat a bullet if you speak out against.
Yeah, I mean, or you're never seen again. You know, one or the other. But it's very hard for them to rise up.
That's why I feel bad for some of the Russians in North America that have positions of celebrity, right? And then they're being hauled out on the carpet. Why aren't you saying anything, Ovechkin? Well, because his fucking family still all lives there.
That's
right? Like I'm not defending Ovechkin. I'm not saying he should do one thing or the other. I'm saying that if I told you, Ryan, listen, no matter what you believe in, if you say anything, we're going to fucking kill your whole family.
Yeah.
It would probably have an impact on you holding your tongue.
Absolutely.
Right? You know what I mean?
Or even speaking in favor of.
The fear they live in.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
It's been that way for decades. Yeah. Decades. So
that's why the sooner the planet is rid of that dick, the small dick,
tiny dick,
maniacal prick, as soon as he's gone, the better off we're all going to be.
Hitler had a notoriously tiny pecker too.
Of course he did.
Was it? He was
one nut.
He had erectile dysfunction as well.
Trump notoriously small dick too. Like what did that hooker say? She's like, it's like a mushroom on a fur coat. Looked like someone buried a mushroom cap in a fur coat. That's what she said. Yeah. Why is it every asshole has a small cock? Every single one.
That's
why how does small cock dudes elevate to such a position? I would venture a guess to say that almost everybody in the evangelical extremist movement has a small dick, like just a tiny hammer.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
You know what?
I think that religion attracts small pecker dudes.
I think you're right.
And women with big vaginas. Like huge vaginas.
So nobody's getting satisfied.
Coming
like
from.
It's just a big circle of disappointment between the entire fucking group.
Yeah, it's just when they get together, no one feels a fucking thing, right? That's why they have to go and hurt people. They're like, listen, I have to throw this tiny little hot dog down a hallway every couple of weeks. I'm mad. We need to hurt others. Yeah. They're not going after common sense. They're going after people with normal sized genitalia because they're just mad.
That's right. We passed a church this weekend on Sunday, and literally like 50, 60 cars in the parking lot, and Ashley counted 11 that had double Canada flags on the backs of their pickup trucks and on the backs of their
They're ruining
car.
the Canadian flag for them.
And that's kind of it. And it's like, isn't it funny? You see that all over, and like how concentrated it is in these church parking lots. Like it's because
small dicks.
Yeah.
And did you notice that those flags are on the back of huge trucks?
I should have taken a picture because I don't want to be that guy that says that, oh, I saw this. Well, show me a picture because that's
Tiny
the
dicks.
world we live in now. I saw it. We saw two churches, and it was rural churches. It wasn't in the city. It was out in the country, and two of them. I saw it. My daughter saw it, and so did Ashley. And it was fucking hilarious because we're like, isn't it funny how they all just collected here? Every freedom fighter is here fighting for
that's right.
Jesus too.
Oh, hold on. I thought you guys said they all came from Alberta. Fuck both of you.
They have family here, Lachlan.
Yeah. They just came back for the week. That is Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton.
That was good. Thank you for that.
That was a lot of fun, man. Yeah, that was good. And everybody settle down. Ukrainian people are going to fucking make this happen. Won't be long. Trust me. Be all right. But anyway, if you need to understand something, listen, read. If I could tell anybody anything today, is that if you are confused, is go to where the source of the information is. Look into it. Lean into it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be scared to tweet
Read
back.
Dean's
Don't be
article.
afraid. Yeah, fuck. Go read my article. It's the
I
best
just
article
retweeted
anybody
it
ever read.
about
Yeah.
15,
It's
20
great.
minutes ago.
But go read it. You have nothing to be scared about. We're getting on top of this because we're smart people. But let's Lockman Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton. At Lockman Cross
Good to
on
see you,
Twitter.
Ryan.
At Ryan Lindley. Sheeple Shepherd Podcast. Subscribe to it today anywhere you get your fine podcast. Follow him on Twitter as well, at Ryan Lindley. See you, bud.
Love you guys.
Love you too, big fella. We'll talk to you
Oh,
soon.
baby.
Nothing but love.
All love.
Nothing but love in the house. Nothing but love. Have a great day, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us today. And the numbers that you joined us in. It's always humbling. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can find our podcast anywhere you get your audio podcast. Google, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Or sorry, it's Apple Music, right? Or Apple Podcasts. Whatever. Apple, Google, Spotify. Apple, Google, Spotify. Just keep it in that order, Dean. You'll be fine. Apple, Google, Spotify. Also, don't forget, you can watch the video of what we do, so you can see the people and you can see the videos and the assets and the beautiful pictures of Ukrainian freedom fighters going, look at this new rocket launcher. Go to YouTube. YouTube Dean Lindell Show. Also, subscribe to that. That'd be great. Really appreciate it. And you can see us on Twitch as well. Dean Blundell TV on Twitch. Facebook, Instagram. We're on Instagram. I know I don't talk about Instagram or Facebook enough. Facebook's pretty self-contained, and I'm not on it. So, I mean, I see people send me stuff. They're like, hey, do you want to respond to this? Generally, the answer is no. But you can access what we do there if you're on Facebook, because you use it for just seeing pictures of nieces and nephews. Get off Facebook. Anyway, thanks to you. Thanks to our sponsors and friends at Easy Auto Financial, making it easy for you to get in a car. Free financing. They don't charge you for it. They'll get you the car that you want, the place that you want to get it from, make everything turnkey. No obligation. Doesn't cost you a dime. All credit welcome. These guys are credit ninjas. EasyAutoFinancial.ca. Not done there. Want to thank our friends at edsfineimports.com. Ed's Fine Imports makes Gitch, luxury branded underwear, boxer briefs, pouch in the front, super soft. Waistband is killer. They never lose their stretch. It is awesome to be a fan of great underpants, fellas. And the best luxury boxer briefs on the market belong to Ed at edsfineimports.com, his own branded underwear. They'll send you a free pair when you use promo code GITCH3. That's your promo code. GITCH, and then the number 3 when you order at edsfineimports.com. Check them out today. Go online. Huge online store. Clothing for men and boys. You're welcome. And Domination. Our friends at domination.com created some AI, some software that make it easier for you to produce promos, comment, all kinds of stuff. Super easy. Instead of hours, it takes minutes. You get one file that's an hour long. You get like 72 different promos in minutes instead of hours, all self-contained. I don't know how they do it because I don't write code, and I'm nowhere near as smart as Adam and the crew at Domination, but try them for free today. Go to dmntn.com. Again, if you're a gamer, streamer, podcaster, make your life way easier. Look good, feel good. Look like you know what you're talking about at least. Use Domination, dmntn.com. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you being here. See you in the next life. No, I'm kidding. We'll see you tomorrow. See you in the next life. I love those tweets that people send out too when they're sad. Well, thanks for everything, everybody. I guess that's it for me. You know those ones where you're like, they trying to do themselves in, or are they just like looking for attention? Generally speaking, some people are looking for attention. Have a great day. See you soon. Tomorrow. Bye.